I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm an INTJ. I'm a Sagittarius Sun. If you follow any of that, then you know that I'm a force. So welcome back to the Priority Report. I'm Scotti, your host with Slow Living Solutions, and I had this really interesting experience this week that I wanted to come on and share with you because I think it is very telling about how some of us end up in career paths that we feel really burnt out on or that we feel like aren't aligned to who we are as people. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. So let me tell you what happened. So I had a deadline with one of my teammates this week. They were going to send me the templates that I'd asked for some graphic design work. If you own your own business or have worked in marketing ever, you know that it's a constant request is for some type of template, whether it's a presentation or it's social media cards or it's whatever it happens to be. But templates are super important because they help keep things standard, they keep best practices, et cetera, et cetera. They're also the bane of my existence because even though I was an artist in my early days, that does not mean that I was a designer in my early days. So there are certain things that I have an eye for and that I understand really well. But generally speaking, like design best practices, not where I should be spending my time, right? So if we're talking about strengths today and looking at how your strengths align to how you spend your time and especially your time in your career, I'm a big fan of offloading vis-a-vis delegating, hiring, etc. people who have skill sets that are very specific and very different from my own, very complementary to my own, if you will. So I'd asked this designer if they could please send me these templates because the deadline that we had set was the 15th. And they sent over the files and it's not what I wanted. It's not what I asked for. And I was really upset about it, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing. Is like you had an expectation, that expectation was violated. I thought I had been clear with the examples that I gave, with the instructions that I gave, with the materials that I provided. I thought I'd had it all under control. And I do believe in taking radical responsibility for my communication, that perhaps I did a bad job at effectively making sure that what I said was heard by the other party and heard the same way that it was meant from me. So I was like, this is my fault. I did a thing. My bad. And I do think that some of that is true. I think that's true in any situation. And I think it's really important to take responsibility for that in particular, because this was a very like karmic come full circle moment for me personally. I'm not even gonna lie about it. I'm not gonna lie. When I think about like, I was like, I've been on the other side of this before. Like I was like, I feel like I have definitely been, this time I'm sitting in the client's seat receiving the thing that is not what I wanted or expected. But I've been on the other side delivering the thing that was for someone that wasn't what they wanted or expected. And I think there's a couple of things about me that you should probably know that play a role in that karma. For starters, like I'm a human design projector. I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm an INTJ. I'm a Sagittarius Sun. If you follow any of that, then you know that I'm a force. I'm a force. And I take that with great pride, and knowing that about myself, I try and always be very explicit about it. But what it also means is that I am not going to be told what to do. I'm just not. I'm not. There's much evidence of this over the past 37 years of my life that proves that telling me what to do is going to end poorly for everyone, really. It's not in me. It does not fit anything about my type. It doesn't matter what measuring stick you're using to look at it. So I have always, as a way of making fun of this, I have always prefaced, I'd say at least for the past 10 years, and even walking into jobs, I've been like, listen, you guys to understand one thing about me, all right? I'm terrible at one thing that y'all really love as a skill, and we need to just all brace ourselves for that, okay? And that one thing is that I get the award for being the world's worst people pleaser. Just worst people pleaser of all time. It is what it is. There are many people out there that have that people pleasing skill set, or are motivated by that, or are conditioned for that. I am not one of them. And I have a lot of sympathy and empathy in some respects for people who get caught up in that loop. But that is not me. It is not me all the way down to the deepest core of my course. So that plays into the bigger picture when we are thinking about this project being delivered and me being very unhappy with not receiving what I had expected to receive, but sitting on the other end of that conversation than where I normally am. Now, when I was the vendor delivering to somebody, whether that was my boss or some like other external partner or whatever the case may be, and I could very quickly surmise for you why I did the things that I did, because I'm a very intentional person. We know this. Can't harp on it enough. Have a whole business around it. And B, I'm a very strategic person. So I am always thinking about how the pieces are all going to move and fit together, and the reasoning and the logic that goes with all of that. And so as I was sitting here thinking about my experience from this week and processing my emotions, I had to take a step back for a second and be like, okay, I'm also smart enough to know that, having sat on the other side of this, I know where my supervisors or the people that I was delivering to maybe didn't see the full picture of where I was coming from, or see even like they weren't taking the time to see what was done well amidst not receiving what it was that they had wanted or expected. So I wanted to take a step back and like think about that in this particular instance. Like, what had this graphic designer done that, even though I do not think I will use these assets, where did that miscommunication, what happened here that like led them to deliver what they delivered? And when I looked at it, and I know this person a little bit on a personal side, not just professional, but from what I witnessed, so this is my truth, not their truth, but this is what I observe, is that the assets that they created, whilst not to my expectation or what I wanted, they were assets that reflect the type of work that they like to do. So that's an interesting piece of information, an interesting pattern that I've seen with this person. They provided options based on their own expectations of how the assets that they created would be used, which flies in the face of my own expectations for how I might use them. But they did have a thought, a reasoning for why it is that they put in the effort that they did and delivered the way that they did based on what they perceived to be the right way of using these assets. And they gravitated towards a focus on elements like on the very artistically attuned elements, right? So things like TypeScript, things like color were very important to them in what it was that they had created on my behalf. The problem with that, of course, being that it doesn't match what I asked for. That what I needed was a functional design output, not an artistic output. That what I needed wasn't 17 options, I needed like 3. And I needed them to be distinctly different for distinct purposes. But I needed the cohesion that you would find from everything being under one brand umbrella. And so when I looked at that and I was like, that's just those are some interesting observations about this person, about their work. The work that they delivered was not, for what it was not low quality. It just wasn't the right deliverable, right? So I think, it's important to step back and pay homage to like, there is a skill here, there's a strength here. It's not what I needed in this moment. So from a business perspective, that doesn't help me. But from a psychologist perspective, as somebody who's sitting here being like, yes, let me think about how I can apply this with my clients. This is interesting, right? Because they attacked the problem, the business problem that they were presented with, according to the knowledge skill set that they had, the knowledge and skill set that they had. Let's make those two different things. The knowledge they had and the skill set that they had. They applied what they are passionate about to that knowledge and that skill set with that business use case. They didn't know what they didn't know. So to be fair, like creating these types of templates is a stretch project for them that they had not attempted before. So I would, I guess what I would say is like, I infer is a great word. I infer that they weren't, it might not be a trait of theirs to go seek out information to supplement what they already know. Let me put it this way. There are people who, I happen to be one of those people where I'm like, I don't know how to do something, but I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm doing the thing. I don't have a clue how to, but I'm going to tell you that I know how to do it. And then I'm going to run and I'm going to figure out, I'm going to learn exactly what I need to know in order to deliver this correctly. Perhaps not the thing that they asked for. Fully admit, I've made this mistake myself. But I will go and learn a new skill set to keep up with whatever's being asked of me. And not everybody does that. Some people only draw on the information that they already have or the skill set that they already have. They are not comfortable with the learning experience and having to do a preliminary research step in their creative or otherwise functional process to get to an outcome that is new for them. So I could be wrong about that. That person would need to speak to their own experience as to whether or not they did some preliminary homework to see if they could find information that would help in guiding them in how to create something that they hadn't done before. But that's like, that also for me as a business owner is a learning experience of like, hey, I hired somebody to do this type of job, to give me this type of output, but it's actually this set of strengths over here that gets me that. It's not like there's a mismatch here, there's a misalignment here in what this person has to offer and what I need the person who can actually do this work to have as part of their repertoire already. And that barrier is only, like that bridge is only created when you are somebody who is willing to bridge that gap yourself as part of your delivery. So, to bring this back around to my own experience and like where this like really started to hit home, the karma itself, depending on how you interpret the word karma. When I look at my career, this like I was chatting with my COO about a different project. She and I are doing some standardization of operating processes, and she was saying to me, she was like, "Scotti, you're such a strategic person," and I was like, "Yeah, I know, duh." But she is, bless her, she is like the yin to my yang. Like she is such a complement of skills. We grew up together more or less in the project management space, in marketing operations space. But she is very operations efficiency oriented. And the irony is, as a strategic person, I've never had a strategic, I've never had a strategic role in the 15 plus years that I was in corporate America. I never actually had a strategy oriented role. I had operational roles that I would apply strategy skills to. And like, as I was thinking this through and talking to her about it, I was like, OMG. Because I struggled so much in my corporate career because I always wanted to take a strategic approach to everything, even though that wasn't really what the job that I was being asked to do entailed. Because that's just how, that's how my mind works. I'm one of those irritating people who needs to know the why behind everything, who needs to know the logic and reasoning behind everything. I'm sure as a small child, my mother was exhausted by me. That's me needing to understand other people's strategy in order to effectively execute, because I need to be in alignment with how it is that you're thinking to make sure that I am thinking similarly, or that I can challenge to better understand or to better come up with a solution than what's being presented to me. That's not a good people-pleasing strategy. People don't like that. Particularly in corporate America, people are not keen on you, A, questioning them, B, asking for more information, or C, challenging what it is that they've already presented you with. They're like, just go get the damn thing effing done. And as I started to reflect more and more on this, I was like, my personal goal, outside of being strategic, my personal goal in my career had always been to lead large teams, to execute on really big initiatives. Let's just put it that way. Predominantly in the marketing space. But I didn't consider that even when I did finally, years after, have my own team, I was running an operations team. And my expectation as a leader, which I pride myself on as being well built into my many personality types, traits, and measures, that the kind of leader that I am, though, still asks of, requires, and wants to lead strategically. So I want a team that has strategic power. I want a team of problem-solving adults that are willing and able to collaborate with one another to achieve a larger ultimate outcome that we all can feel good about how we contributed our specializations to achieving that greater goal. And when I looked at the team that I was running back when, I thought, oh, I got along nice enough with people. The people who resonated with me the most were people who were also looking for that type of strategic, that strategic element to their job, and weren't finding it. And those are the people who are always going to be like mad when you come to them and you're asking them to like create this, I'm making it up, like create this web page, or like fix these keywords, or make this design, whatever the case is, right? And they're like, but you didn't think about these 16 things, and like nobody asked for my opinion before they did X, Y, and Z, and now I have to go back and fix it. Like, if those are words that you are hearing muttering somewhere in your business, be that from friends, colleagues, superiors, people who work for you, that is a sign that somebody has a strategic thinking element to how it is that they operate that they are not getting to use in the job that they have. And I think we make that mistake more often than not, we being like the grand echelon of society that creates corporate companies, like that the hiring process breaks down, that our pursuit of the right career breaks down when we aren't thinking about what are those tried and true strengths in how we process information, that's those soft skills, if you will. You can make a web page, make a web page, make a web page, make a web page. I can make a web page. I can make the assets that I asked for. That's not the point, right? Like, there's hard skills that we may or may not excel at, but there's also soft skills that come with like, what are our patterns in how it is that we process information? And so as I am reflecting on this, I'm going, oh my God, like my lack of fulfillment, being the projector, led to bitterness, shocking, and I was bitter because I felt unseen. I felt unappreciated for the skills that I had brought to the table that weren't being used. Well, obviously, the job that I had was to make sure that things ran as efficiently and effectively as possible. Like, people wanted timelines. They wanted to know how quickly something could get done. They wanted to know what the priorities were. And I, like, my business does not fall far from that tree. We do a lot of time management here, a lot of priority setting, a lot of habitual systems and routines. But in a business that's going to ask me for a deliverable and I need a why that makes sense to me strategically, and they want it like yesterday, I can see where even my own, like, the counter to my strengths are my weaknesses. I get stuck. I fully admit it. I get stuck when somebody's like, but I need it in this teeny tiny short time frame that seems completely and totally unreasonable. Because my immediate question is going to be, are you willing to trade off quality? Are you willing to make the costs go up? Are you willing to shorten your expectations for what gets delivered? Like, something has to give in order for that time constraint to effectively work, and people don't want that answer. They want somebody who's just going to be a yes man and like go get it done at their own expense. So let's summarize here some takeaways from this conversation that I think are worth your consideration going forward here. Number one is if you run across an expectation violation, I want you to think about what was delivered. And if you don't know the person well enough to be able to draw some connections or conclusions around why it is that you got what you did instead of what it is that you asked for, that may be beyond what it was that you effectively or ineffectively communicated in the first place, ask them, talk to them about it. I don't think that that is a bad exercise for either person, so long as your approach is open-ended and open-minded. You're looking to receive information. You are not making an accusation. You are not going to them and shaming them. You are going to them to be like, hey, walk me through your thought process. You want to know their strategy. You want to know their perspective. And then you want to take in that information, genuinely take in that information so that you can understand better, like, how do I better communicate with them next time so that I'm speaking their language? How do I provide them with better direction based on the skills that they bring to the table? Or if you're not going to work with them again, then what skills do you need to look for the next time around in the person that you are going to work with that are going to be better suited to what it is that your request was in the first place? So acknowledging what people's skills and strengths and passions are, and if you can start to observe those objectively, is a super important way to better understand how to communicate with someone as a preliminary step. Second takeaway, it is entirely possible to build an entire career in a space that is not suited for your actual strengths. And it's really important to start to identify what your strengths are. What are the things that you want to be doing that you're not getting to do, be that in the workplace or otherwise, that you would find fulfillment in if they were exercised and acknowledged. So it's this is for a different episode, I assure you, but strategy is not a hard skill set. So when you put it onto your resume or you're going into an interview, if you have a skill similar to strategy, something that is intangible, it's the soft skill side that really resonates with you. Maybe you are an empath and that is something that you use in order to build connection and trust with teammates, and that is something that you really jam on and jive with and bring to the table. I'm sure we could come up with multiple examples. But if that's something that you see as being what would make you happy or fulfilled, we now have to deconstruct the narrative and figure out a different way to highlight that provides tangible examples of how that skill is best used in real life. And we have to genuinely, if we're looking for a new career or we're looking for a new job, we need to genuinely be looking for our own sanity and sake for information about a role that tells us that that would be a skill set that would be desired or valued or valued. And you may not be able to tell that from the job description. That may come in the interview process, But you have to be very honest with yourself that you are not there for the scarcity effect of, hey, I got the interview and now I just have to get the job. And now we're just throwing caution to the wind about what it is that you really and truly want to be doing in that role. In the name of, I just want to be employed elsewhere, or I just want to be employed. And instead make sure that you're truly aligned in the way it is that you are, how you're going to show up in your role for what the role is. Because otherwise you're just going to find yourself discontent, or they're going to be discontent with you. And that is not a good use of anybody's time. You have amazing things to contribute to this world, but being specific and knowing yourself well enough to know what those things are, and then how it is that you apply them effectively, that's unique unto you, that's the secret sauce, friends. That's the secret sauce that we work on here at Slow Living Solutions. We build out your personal blueprint that helps you to identify what are your values, what are your strengths, what are your interests, and where do those things overlap to get you your proficiencies, your proclivities, and your passions. Because that's like the closer and closer you can get to the center of that triage overlap, that's where the vision sits. That's where fulfillment sits. That's when we are operating at our finest, is when we are in alignment with our values, our passions, and the things that we are good at doing. So your other big takeaway is, if that is something that you would like help with, that is a huge part of the work that I do. And in the latest program that I am releasing here shortly, it is a brand new offer. It is a one-to-one mentorship program. We meet weekly, you and I, to go over 12 modules that you will be presented with that you can work through at your own speed and pace, that move you through 5 phases from being burnt out to creating your personal legacy. In those modules, this happens to be one of the sections that we work on, is your personal blueprint. But we meet weekly going through these 5 phases that will take you to better alignment and fulfillment by having the pieces of information that you are missing right now. So being able to put words to your values, being able to put words to your strengths, being able to talk about your behaviors and habits and routines and how those set you up to succeed in your use of time and in the use of your career. And being able to roadmap where it is that you want to go in the future now that you have all that information at your fingertips. Because what you think you want right now might very well change, and probably should, because when we get new information, it should have a ripple effect that changes our perspective on life at large. So if that interests you, you can go to theempowermentmethod.com, take a look, and let me know. You can always DM me, email me, follow me for more information on the program itself, as well as on Slow Living Solutions. And we can figure out the best way for us to work together. So thanks so much for listening. I really enjoyed this one. This was good. I want to do more like this. I don't want to have more experiences where I have to now go create templates. However, we can always find the silver lining, and this was definitely one of them. So I hope that you all gleaned something from this. Please take a note, take a bit of patience, take a bit of reflection with yourself to really think about what your strengths are and how you want to be applying them, or how you are applying them today, that you want to continue to do more of, and hopefully that will give you some better direction on where it is that you want to be spending your time. Have a good one.